Quite frankly, I can't think of any reason why he should have this award. No, I think it's remarkable that CTF survived his tenure as chairman. Well, I first met Michael as a lawyer. I was a lawyer on the other side of a proxy fight, and fighting Michael and his partners, and had a completely untenable, hopeless situation to deal with, but managed to box them into a corner. Eventually lost, but for a while I was on the ascendancy. And so that was my first interaction with him, and some months later he called and asked me to represent him and help him with the situation.
Well, what I learned very early about Michael was his affection for a prolonged conversation. And that is because of his passion. And so I learned early that whenever I got a call from Michael, I would say to him, "I've got 15 minutes, Michael."
We've met several times through his political activities and his business activities, and also social gatherings at his home, and Lorraine and I certainly consider Michael and Maria to be great friends.
Generally, he runs at a time and Maria starts to say, "Hey, you're spending way too much time sort of interjecting. Let's get around to all our guests," and it ends up being sort of a speed dating thing by the time we get to the back end of the table.
There are no short conversations with Michael.
There are not a lot of people that contribute to the conservative movement in the way that he has over the years. He is tireless, as we talked about, and he is deeply committed to principle, and he's willing to stand up and be counted and to take a position. Today, in our current world, as we all know, many of us know, that it is, many people regard it as dangerous to be too vocal and to stand out in the context of what you believe. Well, that does not include Michael Binnion.
I'm known as the Michael Whisperer, mostly through the CEA organization, Canadian Energy Executive Association, that we're both on governors on that as well, and getting Michael to get himself organized. They often will call Pat and say, "Can you talk to Michael?" and get him to respond.
He expressed interest in the work of the Manning Centre for Building Democracy and the Manning Foundation, which the Canada Strong and Free Network has taken over many of its functions. So we got to know him through that, and he's been an enormous benefit to any project we've been connected with, whether it's networking conservatives or developing positive approaches to energy policy.
So I invited Mike to join the board of the CTF, and right off the bat his contributions were remarkable. As a board member, he again brought clarity and an urge to decide at so many issues. He was a very important and meaningful director in the conversations and in the strategic planning.
I think the best thing that Michael does is that he looks for the positive view rather than the critical view. How do we turn something from a negative criticism into a positive question?
He can connect the dots on a lot of things. He can kind of see how he might be able to make a change, kind of 2 iterations out, if you will.
You value those people who have analytical ability, and every time you have a major decision to make, you need people around you who bring ideas and thoughts to the table and challenge your thinking to make you better. And Michael Binnion has that analytical ability that he can add to the discussion. He can make you better. And those of us who've actually had a role in politics know that when you've got to make a decision in an hour, you need the best people in the room to help you make the best decision.
He's very good at getting people together to discuss those things. He has a lot of, hosts a lot of functions at his house and invites a variety of people. And him and Maria are great entertainers and have some great discussions there. Met a lot of interesting people at the Binnion's place.
Michael is a fantastic host, and he has a wine cellar in his basement to which he loves to go down there. And while everybody's partying up above, he's got a group down there which he's really laughing and joking about. But 50 to 60% of that conversation is about politics.
I've been very involved with Mike on hosting and setting up conferences and getting speakers and having speakers that maybe the mainstream right-wing people wouldn't necessarily think of inviting. Paul Martin was one of the fellows, former Prime Minister Paul Martin. And people go, well, why would we invite him out here?
You know, he convinced me that Paul Martin, a former Prime Minister, should come to our conference, should be part of it. And, you know, it always challenged me to think big and to recognize how big our contribution and the work that we were doing contributed to the betterment of the country, and that Paul Martin would want to come to our conference.
I enjoyed his and Maria's hospitality at a dinner at their home many years ago. This occurred with a wide circle of his friends. Maria and Mike were terrific hosts, and it was a great evening. But somewhere along the line, which we all wanted to do, we had a no-holds-barred discussion. And that's when I was delighted to confirm that not only does Michael care about Indigenous Canada, but he doesn't hesitate to spread the word. Because not everybody there thought this was the #1 priority or a priority for Canada. And Michael did, as did I.
I met Michael Binnion as I was invited to speak at the Oilmen's Conference in Banff. He was the moderator, and we had a wonderful time. I compared the oil industry to putting lipstick on a pig and calling it beautiful.
The Indigenous business community and the Indigenous communities that work in and around our industry, oil and gas, making those connections so strong that I think it benefits all involved. And today, some of the strongest advocates for our industry are Indigenous businesses and communities that have truly been engaged and empowered to tell their story. And Michael has played a unique role in coordinating and connecting people.
Well, I think he's tactical in his conversation. So if you attack somebody, they're not really open to a conversation. I think Michael believes that having an open and honest conversation with get rid of the barriers and don't be completely partisan in your views makes people come to the table more openly.
But Michael was very, very generous, and we exchanged views in terms of how the oil industry was going to be good for Fort Mckay and good for First Nations, and helping deal with a lot of employment and economic opportunities, which made our communities better.
One thing that stood out that evening was Michael's understanding of what should be Canada's priorities, the many priorities. And he understood his capacity to represent those priorities to those people who perhaps didn't share them. And even more so, he demonstrated his ability to argue the point without hesitation. Now that's what's required. We have a country to build here. The youngest and the fastest growing segment of our population are young Indigenous men and women. And we've got to give them the opportunity to build the Canada we love. And there's no doubt in my mind that if we follow what people like Michael have said, if we follow what the Indigenous leaders have said as to how this could all come together, and more important than anything, if we listen to the young people in the country, Indigenous and non-Indigenous, we will build a land that will lead the world.
He's a big thinker on a number of fronts, not just on one front. And I think that's always what's impressed me, and I think that's what he contributes to the whole sort of conservative-oriented movement.
He's made a difference to Canada on multiple different fronts and on foundational things about how governments operate. Having been in a government in Canada, the Taxpayers Federation sometimes was a little prickly to deal with. And as having been part of a government where you have them looking over your shoulder and giving you pressure, it forces you as government to think about what you're doing every day, and that is good. It is great. It's important for democracy.
Mike has always been in support of efficient and proper and accountable government, and that really lies at the center of what the Canadian Taxpayers Federation is all about.
He was the one, for example, who first articulated the idea that mere printer's ink, getting a headline, was not the metric we wanted. We wanted the metric of headlines which we drove. Back to Walter Robinson's idea of frame the debate and then drive the agenda. Well, Mike was the first one to say, listen, we've got to get these ink-transfused writers and passionate salespeople to work on the messages that we want, that we've strategically identified as important and meaningful.
Michael Binnion came on as the chairman of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation at a really important time. We were going through a transition, a transformation, and he was there to really encourage and help push Troy Lanigan, who was our CEO at the time, to take on those challenges and make the transformation that he knew was necessary. If it wasn't for Michael and his encouragement and support, I don't know if we would have gone as far and as hard as we did, and I don't know if we'd be in such a good position as we are today.
He never asked anything of staff that he wasn't prepared to do himself, and I've totally respected that fact. I mean, he would always lead by example, and in so doing, he would inspire everybody that was part of the team in whatever level they were at.
I stayed on the board for a time and worked with him as a support for him, but it wasn't particularly necessary. He was just a good, solid chairman.
Canadian Taxpayers Federation is a phenomenal institution, as we all know. It is a very key part of the conservative libertarian movement, and Michael gave many years to the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. We all know that, and we all respect that, and he should have this award and probably should have a few others.
He's a tireless worker. I don't know how he does all the things he does. I'm involved with him on the Modern Miracle Network. We jointly founded that and started that group up about 6-7 years ago now.
And really under Mike Binnion's leadership, we've been putting together this MMN initiative, and that is getting bigger and bigger and expanding, and I think starting to influence. So we're really excited about the change that we can maybe achieve together.
The incubator program that Michael started at the Modern Miracle Network, which supported so many activists, young activists, or as Michael would call them, thought leaders across the country, to get them into that arena for the battle of ideas. And without his support and the support of the network that he built, many of them, including myself, would have really struggled to be successful.
Modern Miracle Network is something that when it started coming together, it seemed like something you see all the time. People that have a great idea and it goes nowhere. Very quickly that got a structure, it got leadership. Michael was a big part of that leadership and continues to be.
He's an action guy, so he'll talk about things, but he moves into action really quickly, and he moves into action by pulling people together. So he doesn't think he can do it all, but he knows he can do something, and something substantive, and you get a lot of people in the room that have different connections and talents and thoughts, and then things start to move, and he's awesome at doing that.
The other big influence that Canadians ought to thank him for is the Modern Miracle Network. What an outstanding idea to fight those bastards and tides and those other pricks down in the US funding all manner of idiocy up here in Canada regarding the hydrocarbon industry. I mean, it was a stroke of brilliance on his part. You know, Modern Miracle Network, to work behind the scenes to fund agencies. And his success in getting the big oil companies to understand this is not a fight run by the Marquess of Queensberry rules. This is a street fight, and we've got to get in there and fight like street fighters, which turns out he has a skill for.
You never see such enthusiasm. You never see somebody that believes in the work that he's doing so much. And it's very contagious in terms of how how much effort he puts into these issues and making sure that things happen in this country in a good way.
Michael can't help himself. That he is haunted by passions, and when he gets passionate about something, he just can't stop. And he is calling people, he is bringing people together, he's having meetings, and he does it in a way that works. And before you know it, you have something that is tangible and effective.
We were talking about, oh, we need something like that in the Maritimes, and he's like, okay. And literally within 3 weeks, oh, I got it up and running, and it's going. So, and I think influencing, it was pretty exciting.
Michael is one of the most principled person I have come across in the past 15, 20 years.
He's become a leader in many ways, an isolated voice in a sense, arguing for real rational environmental economic policy in the context of oil and gas. People may not agree with everything he says, but he is a tremendous advocate for that.
His campaign in Quebec with Questair is absolutely remarkable. And his political influence, as it's grown throughout the last decade or plus, is even more remarkable. He has in fact mastered the skills that the CTF holds so high in esteem. The ability to take a complex message and reduce it to a bumper sticker that Joe Lunchbucket can understand.
He has a clear set of ideas and values, and he is willing to talk about those publicly, stick his neck out, shall we say, which often, business people, and this can be understandable, tend to be quite shy about their views. So they might be very principled, but they're not vocal about it.
Michael's been out there front and center, making sure people hear the cause and fighting the good fight. And he's been doing it on a number of fronts, and we need people like that. He's
the greatest guy to, if you have an idea and you're thinking, well, gosh, how would I get that done? I call him the Nike of the oil and gas industry. Like I'll just do it.
When you talk with Michael about these issues, the issues that he is involved with and fighting towards, you can hear the passion in his voice. He really believes everything that he's fighting for, and I don't think he'll ever stop. He believes in what he does, and I only wish there were more Michael Binnions in Canada.
Canada needs more individuals like Michael who are engaged and involved and willing to give up of their time and energy to try to make Canada a better place to live in.
Michael is, first of all, entrepreneurial. And I mean that in a broad sense, not just starting business. Michael is a self-starter. Michael's a guy who comes up with ideas, with causes. And once he gets into something, whether it's business or political or the intersection between the two, he is tenacious and he is determined. And that's, I think, why so many people admire what he does.
Michael believes in free enterprise. He believes in small government. He believes in the freedom of individuals and of businesses to make this a stronger country. And it is easy to believe in that. It is hard to do the work, to engage directly, to volunteer, to serve on the board, to serve as chair. And Michael has done all of those things because he believes it's good for the country. And it's easy to write a check. It is really hard to put in the time and effort and engagement and to bring people along. And Michael truly has brought a lot of people along on this journey.
Michael is one of those rare Canadian businessmen, too rare, who's been out there fighting the cause for good conservative economic and tax policy, the kind of policy that creates jobs and allows businesses to thrive. And we just don't have enough business people in this country who are prepared to go out and do that themselves.
Michael, I cannot tell you how pleased I am that you're getting this award and this recognition, and keep doing what you're doing. You're making a huge difference for Canada, and we are so happy to be working with you, alongside you on all of that.
The TaxFighter Award is an award that we give out from time to time to individuals who have dedicated a significant portion of their life or have done something very significant towards the cause of bettering this country and making it easier for taxpayers to live their lives and raise their families. Michael Binnion checks all the boxes. He is someone who has dedicated a significant portion of his time, He's dedicated his resources, he's put his staff and his own reputation on the line many times to ensure that there are those who are able to go out and fight in this country for what's right.
Thank you, Michael, for everything you've done for myself personally and helping get my own individual journalism and work off the ground, and everything you've done to make Canada a better place.
Well, Michael, thanks for everything you've done for Canada, for the oil and gas industry in Canada, and for people in general in Canada. You're a unique individual. We need more Michael Binnions, and keep up the good work.
Well, Michael, congratulations on receiving this honor from the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. I can't think of anyone who deserves this honor better than you.
So Michael, congratulations on this award. It's well deserved.
Michael, you've done an awful lot for the cause of good government, good use of taxpayers' money. You deserve the TaxFighter Award. Congratulations.
Congratulations to my good friend Michael Binnion on this richly deserved honor, being awarded the TaxFighter of the Year. I can't think of anybody in Canada more deserving of being called the TaxFighter. Michael is one of Canada's premier freedom fighters, as former chairman of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, founder of the Modern Miracle Network, chair and president of the Canada Strong and Free Network, and so much more. Michael has never stopped in fighting for good government and Canada's real values, our belief in ordered liberty and fiscal responsibility. Michael, thanks for all that you've done, so many ways that you and Maria have given back to our country and to the province of Alberta. Congratulations.
Mike, I can't be at the meeting on June 23rd when you're getting this award, and I'm sad for that, because I would love to be there to stand up and applaud your tenure as chairman and your contribution to the CTF and to Canada. Mike, a big round of applause for you for sure.
Michael, on behalf of the staff, on behalf of the board of directors, on behalf of the thousands and thousands of supporters of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, thank you. Thank you for your service. Thank you for all you've done for this organization and what you've done for this country, and congratulations on receiving the TaxFighter Award.